Hello. We're cutting away from the press conference because today we have a very special guest who is appearing with us virtually from London. My good friend, Peter Gabriel. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Welcome to Dreamforce virtually, and greetings from our mutual friend, Mark Benioff.
Great.
We're delighted you could join us. It's been an amazing morning here in San Francisco. A little rain falling, but it's been a really exciting morning. So, Witness, you've now evolved on from Witness. You've developed these new capabilities, and you've now launched with Richard Branson, who was here last year with us, the Elders. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a continuity of intervention in the world, of trying to transform the world. How do you see this flow from Witness to the Elders at the heart of your work?
Well, I think, it's a very naive, childlike vision in some ways that there could be a group of sort of superheroes, as maybe from reading too many comic books, that could come in and have a positive influence. But in a serious way, there is this global village being connected for the very first time in our evolution. And they don't have spokespeople, really. Governments are not always the best representatives of people. And you see the sort of limitations of the structures of the Security Council of the United Nations, for example, which quite often block action. And I think there's opportunities now to create this whole movement. I mean, I'm very excited that all the tools that are now available through the digital world, i.e. mapping, storytelling, campaigning, high-level interventions, which is where the elders would fit in, and fundraising, that there are amazing set of tools being created but have not yet been used to transform the world in the way they are inevitably going to. And I want very much for them to be working for the right side.
Well, I think they are working for the right side. I think it's your side, my side, and people's side everywhere. I want to go back to one thing with Witness, because I want to give you a chance to also plug the upcoming fundraiser in New York. Why don't you tell people a little bit about that?
Well, December 5th, we do an annual benefit and fundraiser, and we get some great people. And this time we have Mo Ibrahim, too, who's being honored. And we've always got some great music, but it's a good opportunity, and everyone is welcome. But I think there's lots more that can be done. We have some interesting collaborations now with programs that will allow you to disguise your face or the faces of people around you, and when people risk their lives to tell their stories or what's going on in their countries, they often put themselves seriously at risk. So being able to become anonymous and also hide some of the faces and identities of the people working with you, and yet still make sure that the story is told. These are important issues.
So, when you look at the world that is developing today, you described it, I think, rightly as a kind of global village. McLuhan had it right. In the old days, the village, everybody knew what was going on with their neighbors. Now we've been in this world of anonymity of big cities, and people really don't know what's going on. Do you imagine that in this hyper-connected world, we really are going to feel, in some sense, like everyone's neighbor, that that there really will be a sense of kind of human connectivity that will allow us to, and really give us that sense of mutual responsibility and caring?
I think the opportunities are absolutely going to be there. I mean, you're seeing these startups that will fund an operation of a kid in a distant country, of mentoring programs in remote locations, of remote diagnosis of health problems. There are sort of all sorts of ways that are being connected, but I think we're about to enter data wars, over who owns data. There are all sorts of campaigns now to start blocking the internet and controlling it with national borders or within national borders. And I think this is really needs to be dealt with now, because I don't think everyone has quite got a sense of how that's going to impact the future.
By the way, we have on stage with us Marissa here, who's quite happy to take comments and online questions, tweets, and so on. Anything come up so far?
We actually do have one question from Guy. He's really excited that Peter's on the show. And he wanted to know, Sledgehammer was such an innovative video. Where do you see the future of music videos?
It's hard to say. You know, I think there's a lot of do-it-yourself stuff happening, which is quite interesting. And I think, you know, we were very lucky because we came at a time when there were big budgets and no rules.
Right.
So we had a lot of fun. And, you know, I could work with all sorts of wonderful people. It's a lot harder. Unless you're sort of hitting those top 20 pop tunes, the budgets aren't there. And so I think in some ways, you know, restrictions are an artist's friends, limitations, because they force you to be creative with what you have. And you're seeing in YouTube this whole sort of plethora of wonderful creativity done for very little money. And so I think we're probably going to see more of that.
So it's really kind of the democratization of the production, that you can do it now on the cheap and do really exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's a halfway point. I know Google have been looking at setting up sort of media studios that would fuel a lot of this, and I think we'll see a lot more of that, where low budget situations emerge that will allow people to explore creativity in lots of different ways.
Well, you and I were in contact recently in email when I sent you that video that was also on YouTube of Box, which was amazing, by a local company, Bot and Dolly, here in San Francisco, that did some of the effects for the film Gravity. By the way, did you see Gravity yet?
Yes, I did see Gravity.
Pretty cool film.
It's a stunning film in the way it looks.
In that email, you said you're considering putting a tour on without any live performers? What's that?
Well, it's what we call horizontal income, where you can lie in bed and still make money. Because some people have been doing this professionally for years. But anyway, besides that, no, I'm interested to explore. Well, this is actually based on a sort of circus format, but using all sorts of technological tools. It's just something I'm going to play around with next year, I hope, and see if something interesting comes out.
Can you imagine using these kinds of robots like they make in creating an effect?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're redoing a tour at the moment which has these old lighting booms, and although they're not nearly as sophisticated as these wonderful robot arms, they still have this capacity to look menacing and oppressive, or sensitive and personal, sympathetic. And I think, you know, often the first wave of the technology is a bit clunky, dehumanizing, and the second wave of the technology can be sort of superhumanizing. So this is the stage I think we're entering with a lot of this, and it fascinates me.
I mean, you've really been at the frontier of this marriage of technology, art, and performance. You know, going all the way back, literally to the Genesis days, and then much more recently, I remember when we launched Eve at the GBN offices many, many years ago. Do you see the artist and the technologist as kind of partners in the creation of the future of performance and art in the way that I think you've been very much at the center?
Well, I think a lot of people involved in any sort of creative things get turned on by new inventions and cool tools, to use Kevin Kelly's words. And but you know, we are inspired often by toys, because they often give us new ways of thinking about things. So I think there's so much that is mixing and marrying up now that will allow us to explore things in a very different way, and also socially, because you know, you can have a group of people in a creative act rather than just a single mind.
And do you find, I mean, are you beginning to use that kind of group creativity to create new ideas? I mean, you've always had groups of people around you, but having said that, I mean, a much more extended network.
Yeah, it's hard enough to work with people smarter than me. And I think, there are a lot of I mean, for example, we let people remix stuff that we do, but I think from conception, I think the process is going to be democratized as well as the product.
That's a very good way to put it. Very good way to put it. That democratization of the process, opening up and allowing lots of people to participate in that creativity.
I think, we're going to be all sorts of things that turn over faster, and I'm a very slow turnover artist, but I think the potential is very exciting, and I'm sure people will have several different creative identities and collaborations.
So think about the future, all right? You and I have spent many, many hours talking about the future over the years. Can you imagine what you might be doing in 5 or 10 years by way of the kind of elaboration of the tools and kind of creative performance that you're engaged in? What would you like to be doing? Other than hanging out in the hotel?
Sitting around with a wonderful group of very smart, creative people, brainstorming stuff that hasn't been done before. I've been very lucky to be able to have done that, and that's still what I love to do, but maybe just opening up the field a little bit, so it's not just the usual suspects, but there are a few surprises in there, and people from very different backgrounds. I mean, we had the dream, as you remember, of trying to put together an experience park that was created by artists and scientists, and I still would love to see that, because you have independent films, you have independent music, but you still don't really have an independent theme park movement. And although the budgets are scary, I think there is opportunity for that. I mean, you get Burning Man in some ways as a starting point there, but I think you could build that around a location.
That's I must say, I never thought about that. Burning Man probably comes as close to anything as the kind of pop-up theme park of the kind of idea we talked about many years ago.
Yeah.
That's a very cool thought. Look, your instinct continually is inclusive.
Sorry, I just lost sound.
Pardon me?
Just lost sound.
You couldn't hear me?
I couldn't hear you, sorry.
Okay. Do we need to wrap up? Audio? What?
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, great. So, when you think about things like the kind of creative engagements that you've been involved in, and Witness and all the others, your instinct has been to be inclusive. And yet, artists have this, always had this sense of being exclusive. It is about me and my art. What is it that, you find so rich in that much richer network of human connections that you've tried to touch as part of your work?
Well, I just think it gives you a much richer palette to work from. I mean, I'm still a control freak in certain areas of my work. I think most artists are, but not to have access and collaborations with really wonderful people from wonderful backgrounds, whether it's inventors, musicians from all around the world. I think my life would have been a lot poorer without all that.
You and I first met when I had the idea of putting you up on the space shuttle and writing some music in space and performing in space. Never happened, but now our friend Richard Branson has got some rockets that are almost ready to go. Not quite, maybe next year. Could you imagine taking a ride and performing in space now that it's almost accessible?
Well, actually, I had a phone call from Richard today discussing exactly that, but I don't think, I think I'd like to let a few people iron out the wrinkles before I go up. And I think it's going to get, increasingly more exciting as the longer people are doing it. But yeah, no, it is a great idea, and I just think it's about time the human race looked beyond itself.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up, Peter. I want to thank you for joining us. It's great. My love to Maeve and the boys, and we hope we'll see you out here in the near future.
And to Kathleen, and say hi to Mark.
I will. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.